thank you, Pat, for that very nice introduction, and also I want to thank all of you for coming out today. Did we survive the eclipse all right yesterday?
Awesome. Awesome, that's right.
I heard there was quite a few people up here in Blairsville and Union County and all that. Yeah, now they're gone, right? Well, again, thanks for coming out. What I wanted to do tonight is, first of all, tell you just a little bit about myself, kind of who is Michael Williams, how I ended up where I am today, and what I would like to do when elected to be your next governor. First of all, I am a very, very proud father of 4 children, and my wife just had a baby, and she is 7 weeks old today. So, she was 7 pounds, 11 ounces when she was born, and she is growing like a weed right now. And we're very blessed because she actually sleeps through the night. So, really, really excited about that. And I have a very, very beautiful, amazing wife. Steve Gooch back there can testify to that. They all tease me about how much better looking my wife is than me. But, wonderful, wonderful, amazing wife. And also, if I'm going to be frank with you guys tonight, I never, ever thought that I would be in politics. It just didn't kind of fit my personality, didn't fit kind of what my dreams, what my passions were. Ever since I was 8 years old, I loved business. In fact, my older sister and I, we went around our neighborhood one summer trying to convince the parents to let us teach their kids how to swim. We had a swimming pool in our backyard, so we convinced, I can't remember how many, 15 or 20 kids that were out there teaching them how to swim all summer long. By the end of the summer, I'm 8 years old, it's about 1980, and I've got $300 in cash. That's just burned a hole in my pocket. And I've got my list of G.I. Joe characters, Transformers, all these toys I was going to buy. And my dad, he overheard me talking to one of my friends about it. My dad is a very smart, very wise man. He brings me into his office, he opens up his briefcase, and he says, "Michael, I understand you have some money." I was like, "Yes, sir, I did." I started going off to tell him what I was going to do with it. He reaches into his briefcase, and he pulls out a Wall Street Journal. And he starts talking to me about stocks and bonds. And we started to explain this concept called dividends, where I could get a check in the mail every 3 months for doing absolutely nothing. I got excited. My dad had picked up on that excitement and said, "You know what, Michael? If you invest your money instead of spending it on toys, I'm matched dollar for dollar." So at the age of 8, I had my first 401k. And I bought publicly shares of a stock. And the stock was called Cleco, Central Louisiana Electric Company. It happened to be the company my dad worked for. So as I got it figured out that I owned the company my dad worked for, I was kind of a little sassy with him. He was getting on to me. And I was like, "Dad, don't make me call your boss, Dad." He knocked me in shape really, really quick. I only have it one time. But nonetheless, I enjoyed the raising money, making money, investing, all that. That next school year, I went down to Walmart, Kmart, bought a bunch of candies, a bunch of Cokes, lined my bookshelf with them, put them in my book bag, hopped on the bus, started selling candies and Cokes to all the kids on the bus. Made a little pocket change. The school found out about it. They shut me down. So also at the age of 8, I had my first interaction with government regulations. Unfortunately, that was not the last time the government ever impeded my ability to make some money and support my family. I went to high school, graduated, went to college, got my degree in accounting, became a CPA. Went to work for Arthur Andersen. At the time, it was the world's largest, most prestigious accounting and auditing firm. Left there, went to work for VF Corporation, which was the largest apparel manufacturer. Did that for a couple of years. I had this brilliant idea. I was tired of working for the man. I was going to do my own thing. So I decided to open up barbershops. My wife and I was crazy. But nonetheless, I quit my job, cold turkey. I go out and I buy into a franchise called Sport Clips Haircuts. Open up 18 of them in Atlanta, Birmingham, and Mobile. 160 employees. About 2012, 2013, a small little 2,700-page bill comes out called Obamacare. Right? Now, I just barely made it through 2008. Anybody here enjoy the year 2008? Had it not been for my wife, that's the year I married my wife, I would have hated 2008, but I can't now because that's our anniversary year. But we barely made it through. The financial mess was 2008. So as Obamacare came in, and all had 160 employees, trying to figure out how I was going to make this work. I just got really frustrated because I couldn't see it. This was going to put a tremendous strain on my business, so I ended up selling. Got completely out of it. So I was sitting at my desk trying to figure out what to do. I'm 39 years old, too young to retire, looking into some of the other businesses. I wanted to figure out what business made the most money. Insurance companies and banks. So I started looking into those industries. And what I learned was that subject matter expertise wasn't the biggest hurdle. I had the capital, that wasn't the biggest hurdle. The biggest hurdle in those industries, government regulations. So I had another brilliant idea. I could keep complaining about things, or I could do something about it. So I sat down with my wife, we talked about it, I said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and we're going to run for state senate here in Forsyth County. Well, again, this is so foreign to my personality, to who I am, that whenever I called my mom, tell my mom, hey mom, I'm going to run for state senate here in Forsyth County. It took me 30 minutes to convince her. I wasn't kidding. I was being serious. I was really going to do this. On top of that, I didn't know anybody in my community. I was an unknown. I had spent, 8-10 years traveling about 5,000 to 7,000 miles a month, taking care of all the stores. I knew who my kids' teachers were, who the people I went to church with. Besides that, nobody knew who I was. So I just started showing up to tea parties, to GOP events, saying, hey, I'm Michael Williams, and I want to be your state senator. They looked at me, kind of scratched their head and said, who the heck are you? And why am I going to vote for you? Very similar to some of the thoughts you guys might be having. Who the heck is this Michael Williams guy? And why do I want him to be my governor? Well, we went out there, and we were up against a long-time entrenched incumbent. He'd been down there for over 10 years. He had backing of lieutenant governor and backing of almost every single senator, including that one back there. I don't vote against him, but we're friends now. The Georgia Chamber of Commerce, they spent over $500,000 defending that seat. I put in over $300,000 of my own dollars. We went out there and we busted our tails. We knocked over 20,000 doors, made thousands of phone calls. I got, at the time, 6-year-old, 14-year-old son. They were some of my best door knockers. Every time they went out there knocking on doors, I'd get a call or an email saying, I've never met you, Michael, but I met your kids, your sons, and I'm going to vote for you because how well they represented us. So they're awesome, awesome young men. We went out there and we ended up beating this incumbent 66 to 34%.
Wow.
And I was excited. I was excited. We almost performed a miracle right there. We didn't have to come. I had all these great ideas in my head, what we're going to do. I went down there and bam.
You ran into the brick wall.
Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. You run into this wall. All right. But I call it the process. I'm going to get a little bit about the process here in a minute. But after my first term, I realized that, there's some things going on here that we need to change. And when I first heard Donald Trump announce as president, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think the guy was serious. I thought he was kind of doing some taping for his next reality show, to run to the White House or something like that. But as I started listening to him, as I started watching him and seeing what he was talking about, I was like, this guy's on something. He's not backed by lobbyists. He's not backed by special interests. He's got his own money. He's out there talking about what the people want to hear. I was out there, a year ago, not even that, knocking on all these doors, talking to everybody. What he was saying was resonating. So I became the first elected official in Georgia to come out and publicly endorse Donald Trump president. And I was really excited about that as well. Although I got teased, I got mocked a little bit, but we all see it clapping now. And
Yeah.
I was really excited for that to happen. So while I really wasn't able to get accomplished what I wanted to down at the Senate, I was able to do a couple of good things. Where's that here? Where'd she go? Oh, there she is. Yeah, helping out the education board members to kind of get their voice back. A couple other things like that. And on top of that, I was rated 100% my voting rate this past legislative session from Americans for Prosperity as well as the American Conservative Union. Also identified as the most conservative senator based upon my lifetime record. So again, I wasn't able to get everything I wanted passed, but I was able to stay true to my values, to my principles, based upon how I voted. So that's a little bit about what kind of got me here, the position I am now. And what I feel like we need to do to help Georgia become what we all know it can become is we have to expose and blow up that process down there. Because that process, some people call it the making of sausage, or the sausage factory. Y'all ever heard that before?
Oh,
Yeah, it's a
swamp.
dirty, nasty thing. You don't really want to see it. All right. Well, the thing is, if you really saw what was going on, it make you really aggravated. I'm going to share 2 bills with you to kind of lay out the process. One of them is Uber. Y'all ever heard of Uber? Yeah. It's a little app on the phone. You push a button, the car shows up, takes you wherever you want to go. Who would hate Uber? Taxis. Taxis have a pretty strong lobbying arm down Capitol. They're able to convince the House, all tax bills have to start in the House. So all these tax bills, they start in the House. Taxi lobbyists go, they talk to some House members, and they create a bill based upon the fact that Uber has an unfair advantage on taxis. Uber's not taxed and regulated like taxis are. So taxis, these lobbyists, they convince these legislators, the House members, to create a bill to tax and regulate Uber. Passes the House, comes over to the Senate. I sit on the Finance Committee. Myself and several other legislators, senators, we say, look, we're Republicans. That is not how Republicans solve problems. We don't tax and regulate. What do? We eliminate the tax, we eliminate the regulations. So that's exactly what we did. We stripped that bill, we removed the tax on taxis, and removed the regulations. We pass it out of the Finance Committee. It goes to another committee. It's a committee I like to call Committee where conservative ideas go to die. The Rules Committee. Right?
Yeah.
There is only one purpose for the Rules Committee. That's for a bill, once it passes the standing committees, to go to sit there until it's called upon by leadership to be voted on the floor. Now, we have a current lieutenant governor. Wants to be our governor. We have a bill, a very conservative bill, sitting in the Rules Committee. What do you think that conservative lieutenant governor should have done?
Worked it.
What do you think happened?
Nothing.
Nothing. It sits there and it dies. Now, why? Why is a conservative bill not called up and voted on? There's no lobbyists calling for that bill. There's no money behind that bill. There's nobody pushing for that bill. So it just dies.
The good old boys are controlling things. Always.
Now, had that bill come up, what would happen on the floor? Every single one of the Republican senators would have voted for that bill. Gone to that House. Had it gone to that House floor, what would have happened? Every single one of those House members, Republican, would have voted for that bill. Gone over to the governor's office. I don't know what had happened. I would have liked to have think that the governor would have signed it, but again, because the money wasn't pushing it, it just goes to die. On the flip side, all right, there's another bill. This is one of the worst pieces of crony capitalism I think I have seen in a very, very long time. Basically, it's a bill that takes about $60 million from us and gives it to a very small group of people to come up with about $40 million. Starts again, it's a tax bill, so it starts in the House. It passes, comes over to the Senate. I'm on the Finance Committee. We kill it in Finance. I was like, all right, good, we killed this bill. I was very naive. These lobbyists, they take this bill and they attach it to a governor's bill. Now, why is it important it's a governor's bill? Because if you don't vote for the governor's bill, you know, you just have to vote for the governor's bill. So it's attached to the governor's bill. And we don't vote on it until the very last day of session. Now, we have 40 days to pass bills down in the Senate. About 80 to 90% of all of the bills had their final passage the last 2 days. Again, that's by design. Why is that by design? Because we have, 200-something legislators down there that all are working on bills, that want to get their bills passed. And if you cram it all in the last day or two, we're all going to be antsy to get our bill passed. We're all going to be voting crazy so we can get this out of here, so we can get it to my bill, or to my friend's bill, so we can get it passed. Well, I figure out this bill's coming up, we talk about the caucus, make a big stink about it. It comes up. I push my button to vote, or to speak against it on the floor. The author comes up, he talks about the bill, they allow another senator to come up, then another senator does what's called calls for the previous question. So that basically means is we end debate, and we vote immediately. Now again, all these senators, they want their bills. They want to be able to vote on their bills. So they say, sure, just stop talking about it. We all know how we're going to vote anyway. I don't get a chance to go up there and talk about it. We vote on it. It fails. All right? But then they do another parliamentary procedure. Immediate reconsideration. There are some senators that were not on the floor, but they need it on the floor. So they go out, they pull them off, bring them all down on the floor. We vote on again, and it passes. Goes to the House, it passes. Goes to the governor, and it's signed. So we have a conservative bill. That process is killed. A bill that is straight up crony capitalism, supported by lobbyists, uses this system, is passed and signed into law by the governor.
The governor shouldn't have signed it.
I've made a commitment I am not going to talk about the current governor. He's going to be out of office so pretty soon. We've got to focus on the future. Who's going to be the next governor? So that's the process that we have to kind of blow up, kind of expose what's going on. Now, when I first got elected, I had a pretty senior member of the Senate come up to me. He saw that I was very inquisitive, kind of trying to figure out what's going on. He says, Michael, you really want to know what's going on now? Follow the money. Well, I'm a CPA. I love to read financial statements, audit reports, disclosure statements. I've been diving into this stuff. Let me tell you, some of the things I've seen, I couldn't believe myself. I really could not believe some of the stuff that I was reading. I get this audit report. It's called a single audit report. They do it every single year. The state of Georgia actually has an internal audit department that goes out there and audits all these agencies to look and make sure that we have internal control environment, everything's being done the right way. I'm reading this report. Again, I just really could not believe it. So I call up internal audit. I'm like, look, this is what I think this report is saying. Is this accurate? They're like, yes. So I didn't stop there. I went and talked to a couple other CPAs that actually done work for the state and done some consulting. Like, look, is this accurate? Am I understanding this correctly? This report that came out from internal audit, had it come out for a publicly traded company like a Delta, a UPS, Home Depot, the CEO or the CFO would have been fired immediately. The Security and Exchange Commission, they very easily could have come in, investigated, and put people in jail for mismanagement. What happens here in Georgia? Nothing. Not a single thing. I'm going to give you a couple examples. Department of Corrections, a couple of years ago, they go out and they spend $33 million. That's a lot of money. They book it into an account called Construction in Progress. There's just some mythological progress over here being built. And so audit comes in, says, "Where's this construction in progress?" "Oh, we don't know." "Where's the support? Where would you spend the money?" We don't know. They couldn't provide a single piece of support for where that $33 million went. Just gone. Is anybody held accountable?
Sure, one for a good cause.
I wish I could say that. I don't know. I don't know where it went.
Yeah.
Another example, Department of Natural Resources. They're out there collecting money. That money they collect is supposed to go to the state treasury. By law, it's supposed to go to the state treasury, and then we appropriate, the legislature appropriate money what they can spend. They collect $5 million. They collect a lot, but $5 million of it, they just spend it. It's not appropriated to them. They just took it upon themselves to spend it. They're basically breaking the law. Internal audit finds out about it. They let the current legislative body know about it. You know what they do? They have to do something this time, but it's very clever what they do. The very next year, they appropriate their normal budget. Then they appropriate an additional $5 million. So that then the Department of Natural Resources can submit the $5 million back to the Treasury, so they can then say they're in compliance with the law. That's the kind of stuff that happens. That's the kind of stuff we got to stop. And again, as I'm talking with potential and some other people, we feel like there's about $1 billion a year every single year that we could save if we just had stronger internal controls and held people responsible when money comes up missing. Again, I could probably spend the next hour just going through list after list after list of where we have all these problems. Sometimes they're corrected, sometimes they're not. But the fact that it continues to go on is a huge problem, and one thing that I am going to take very, very serious to make sure we control your guys' money. Also with the budget, actually let me get myself a little bit. Again, I mentioned I love business, right? In Georgia, we are positioned to become world leaders in a couple specific areas here in Georgia. One of them is cyber technology, cybersecurity. You know, Augusta, I think close to $500 million has been spent in Augusta over the past couple of years, building out NSA and the Cyber Command Center. Also, logistics and supply chain. We have the world's busiest airport. We have the Port of Savannah that's being deepened and dredged out. We've got on the eastern seaboard the second highest concentration of warehouses and distribution centers on the eastern seaboard. So we can become world leaders in that. Financial technology. We have, what, 80%, over 80% of all the credit card transactions in the world processed in Atlanta. We also have the owners of the New York Stock Exchange is in Atlanta. And then this company is called ICE. It's not ICE Immigration Access, it's another ICE, Intercontinental Exchange. They also own 11 other national and international exchanges that transact close to $1 trillion every single day. We are positioned to really excel and advance in some of these high-tech areas. Now, how is Georgia currently growing our economy? Any ideas?
Turd, chickens.
Okay, close. Do what?
Entertainment.
Entertainment. But how are they getting entertainment?
Movies. Tourism.
Tax credits.
Tax credits.
Tax credits. Have y'all heard the statement that Georgia is the #1 state in the country to do business? Y'all heard that before?
Yes.
Yes. Politicians love to say that. We're the #1 state in the country to do business for 3 years in a row. As I'm going out there talking to small businesses, people like you and I are starting to start up businesses, I ask them, do y'all feel like we're the best state in the country to do business? Yeah, somebody laughed. I don't ever get the yes feeling because they go into problems they have getting licenses, getting permits. I mean, there's just problem after problem after problem to getting their business started. In fact, there's a guy right now in Forsyth County today sitting on $10 million. He wants to open up a new business, but the state of Georgia won't give him a business license. Great question. It's the alcohol 3-tier system. His wife owns a bar in Midtown. He has a new process to age whiskey. He wants to open up a business here in Forsyth County, or over Forsyth County. I actually sat down with him, somebody from the Department of Revenue, trying to figure out how we can make this work, because his wife and he have already signed affidavits saying, look, we just need 3 months. We are living off of the money that we're generating from this business. We will sell it, we will get out, we won't sell our product, we'll be in compliance, all this kind of good stuff. We'll make sure we don't break the law. We just need this to provide for our family for 3 months. So no, they couldn't do it. He asked him, what can I do? Tell me what I need to do to get this license. You know what the response was? Sell the business. No, divorce your wife. Oh. I'm not kidding. Those words came out of the mouth of the person that was representing the Department of Revenue. Divorce your wife. That is not the answer. That will never be the answer. All right. Georgia is the #1 state in the country for big business to do business, because they get tax credits. They take our money and they give it to all these big businesses so they can come in Georgia, build out their factories, whatever it might be. They get the red carpet when they come in. You better believe it. A company that the governor's office, when they recruited, is trying to get a business permit from a city or a county. Nothing is going to stop that. But yet you or I, go ahead, treat it completely different. So Georgia, we need to be the best and easiest place for small business to generate and to thrive and to open up. We need to be the leaders, the forefront of technologies, of innovation. We need to create new markets and new ideas. I hear some of our elected officials talk about how they want to be the next Silicon Valley, the Hollywood of the South. I don't want to be the next anything. I want people to look to Georgia and say, I want to be Georgia. That's what we need. When I sit in caucus meetings, there's two things that just get all over me. One of them is, where's the governor stand on this? Does that have the governor's support? We're the legislature. We're a separate body. We don't need the governor's support. Why are we asking for the governor's support? The other one is, what other state is doing it? If you want to be a leader, being a leader means you're the first to do it. It means no other state is doing it. But yet that's the mentality. That's what we have to change, and that's what one of the things that I love about business is the areas, the innovations. I mean, just look at what business and technology has done for our lives. Some good, some bad. But again, that's what we have to create, to thrive here in the state of Georgia, is entrepreneur, small business guy. Because we all know that's really where jobs and wealth comes from. It's not going from big business that comes in and sets up shop and it takes their profits out of state. All right, education.
Yeah.
Here things we've got a great education system here in Georgia. I was reading a couple articles the other day. And how much time do I have? When do I need to cut off? All right, we don't get tired of hearing me talk. I'll just act like you're asleep or something. But I was reading some articles the other day about where's Georgia fit with education. And I was going through the top 100 high schools in the country. Was a single school in the top 10, not the top 20. I had to get all the way to number 38 before I saw a Georgia school. We're the eighth largest state in the country. But our highest school ranks 38.
Which one was it?
It was the Gwinnett Science Math.
It was a public school.
Yeah. They were all public schools. Well, I say all. There's only 3 on the top 100.
That's a special school.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, they're all, especially the other ones like Savannah, the arts. There was that one. There was another. I can't remember what those. There's 3 of them. And they're in the top 100. Anytime I talk about education, I always have to say that the number one most important success factor for the education of a child are the parents. The parents have to be in charge and have to be felt like they have a say in their child's education. So,
Parents have been ousted from the school system.
I agree.
Okay? I was in New York State in the late 1990s. The football team was up for state championship. The jocks from the football team went around and put bottle bombs in people's cars and other things. I forgot what class felony it was, but they were to be expelled from the team, okay? The chairman of the board wanted to do it. I was at that school board meeting. Over 800 people were there. I was the only one, I made TV and radio, that got up and said, these kids should go to jail, they can't play football. The principal of the school threatened to throw me out of his school. I can't speak on the local board down here unless I go to the superintendent's office, request an interview, tell them what I want to say, and if they like it, they'll let me. If they don't, they won't.
Yeah,
And I cannot walk into a school system and get any information about what they're teaching. I wanted to find out what textbooks they're using, because kids don't know crap about our history.
Right.
They're not using textbooks is what they're telling me. They're going online.
Online.
Who knows what they're
There's
learning?
there's 2 things that you bring up that I want to talk about. One, football. I mean, I told you where we stand on our high schools, on top 100. Georgia, we have the number 1 and the number 2 high school football college recruit here in Georgia. So if you get parents behind something in Georgia, we're going to make it happen. You saw it with football. Parents love football, and we are dominated in football. But education, to your point, yeah, parents are kind of been thrown out. One of the things that I do not support and will fight tooth and nail is Common Core. We have got to get rid of Common Core. More specifically, we have to eliminate the strings that are attached to money that comes into our school systems from the federal government. As long as they're controlling our education, we're not going to be able to have any say. So we've got to figure out how to cut those strings off, eliminate Common Core, and push education back down to parents, giving them some more choices so that they feel like they're empowered in the education of their child. A lot of it, it's just over time, people feel like they don't have a say, as well as societal changes. I remember, I'm going to tell my son a little bit. He was, my oldest son, he was in 8th grade. And this was about six years ago or so. And at this time, the kids were playing a game. It was kind of a dangerous game. They would actually choke each other. And he was playing this game, and he gets choked, and he passes out. Well, they send him to the office. They send him and some of the other kids that were doing it to the office. They call the parents. I show up. I'm over there getting on my son. So what the heck are you doing, kid? You know, you don't choke people. You don't let yourself get choked. Stand, you could die. All this stuff. Another parent, you know what they were doing? Getting on to the administration.
Yeah.
Where were you? Why did you let that happen?
Yeah.
It's not their responsibility to teach your child, don't choke somebody.
Yeah.
That's the parent's responsibility.
Yep.
So we have to put our parents back in charge of education. One of the things, in addition, that I want to do is right now, the governor's office appoints every single member of the state school board. I would love to see that go back to the people and voted on by the people.
Yeah.
Not having the governor dictate that, but have the people decide who their state school board members are going to be. Also, we've heard a lot about failing schools. You know, we have so many failing schools. There's like 70,000 kids right now in Georgia that are failing school. And the only solutions that I really hear are more government takeover, the state coming in and taking over failing schools. That's not the answer. Again, state government going in and taking over school is never going to be the answer. What I believe is the communities need to come together, work together to provide an environment for these kids to learn and to grow. Because again, when you look at where these failing schools are, most of these failing schools are in inner cities where they don't have a home environment. They're either in single family or single parent homes. That parent might be working 2 or 3 jobs. There's just no structure there. I sat down with a not-for-profit organization just about 2 weeks ago. They actually went into an area. They specifically target failing schools. That's their mission, is to turn around failing schools. The way they do it, though, is they buy apartment complexes. They try to find the biggest apartment complex in that failing school area. They buy it, and then they create an environment within that apartment complex. They have after-school care, daycare, tutoring, health care. They, again, create a makeshift family. They actually protect the borders of their apartment complex. They have higher security guards to make sure that gang members don't come in. It's a protected area. They have turned around failing schools in a matter of 2 years to a blue ribbon Title I school. They leave, it's back down to a failing school in a year. You know what even makes it more frustrating for me is this not-for-profit. They're trying to do this in downtown Atlanta right now. There's actually a specific apartment complex they're trying to buy. But they can't because it's too expensive. And the reason it's too expensive isn't because of the market. It's because the federal government is dumping money through HUD to buy up poor areas. The federal government is making it more expensive than it should for this not-for-profit to come in and do what it does best. Government has got to get out of our way. On top of that, this not-for-profit, they turned that school around, $200,000. $200,000. That school was going to get a grant from the federal government for $4 million. They did it for 5%. We've got to get the government out of our school systems, turn to the parents and the communities so that we can take our kids back and teach them how to well. Transportation. How was transportation? How was traffic yesterday? Was it pretty bad here yesterday? Was it pretty bad?
They don't know how to direct traffic. They told us to go up to 3/4 of a mile and didn't block the side streets. So people, but the chase car was coming, the lead car, they were coming in all directions.
Oh, wow.
And the people were on the side of the road and I'm looking and thinking, oh my That was the DOT.
Transportation here in Georgia is a mess. Alright, I was sitting at my desk at my office the other day, just trying to wrap my arms around transportation in Georgia, because I mean, it is a mess. And I'm sitting there looking at this map, and I just kind of get hit upside the head, because what hits me is, whoever designed our road system back in the 1940s and 50s, did a horrific, I mean, a fatal flaw. Every single road in Georgia leads to one spot. Downtown Atlanta. Again, we've got, what, the second, third largest container port over Savannah. All this cargo coming through, all these semi-trucks hopping on the roads. Where do they go? Right through Atlanta. There's distribution centers. There's an inland port up in Dalton. About 20 to 30% of all the traffic in Atlanta is pass-through traffic. And most of that's the semis, which is about, what, 2, 3, 4 car lengths? If we could eliminate that pass-through traffic, and we connect some of these outlying cities, let's say 16, when it comes from Savannah, instead of it ending right there at the 75, it goes all the way through to Columbus. Columbus 185, let's say it shoots all the way up to Dalton. There's a road from Dalton that goes all the way down to Athens and back to Savannah. We connect some of these outlying cities. That will help rural Georgia. It'll help, again, with these inland ports, the distribution centers, all these containers that are coming up. It will give businesses opportunities to create this stuff on the peripherals, but not have to go through Atlanta. And again, we can eliminate 20% of the traffic just by doing that.
Where land is a lot cheaper.
Exactly, land's cheaper. Yeah, there's several different benefits to that, yes, sir.
Can I be sort of candid here?
Definitely, be candid as you can.
Can we figure out how to move that overhead interstate going to the Braves Stadium
Use it somewhere else.
and use it somewhere else?
I know that engineers can do some marvelous things. I don't think they figured out how to pick up an entire interstate system and move it.
We go down to Anacostia, Florida. We go down through Columbus, and there's a stretch of road down there. What is it? What highway is it?
It goes to nowhere.
Yeah, it goes to nowhere.
I don't know.
This thing is a 6-lane road. It's got double bicycle lanes on each side of it. And we've been, what,
It's been working on it about 20 years, I think.
Yeah. And you go 80, 90 miles, you might pass 1 or 2 cars.
We can't change that. Again, we can't go in the past and change things, but go into the future if we can.
But they're still working on it.
Well, that's, the state's been able to kind of change some of that now with the, and I know the 170 tax, a lot of people don't like that, but it has been beneficial in some areas in that they've been able, the state of Georgia's been able to take money and build roads without having to rely on federal funds. And they use the federal funds to maintain the roads, which actually it's better for everybody. So hopefully, we'll see some improvement on that. Also, our law enforcement, I know there's several law enforcement officers. Can we give them all a round of applause? Right now in our country, it is not an easy thing to be a law enforcement officer. Lots of us love you guys, but I also know there's some out there that despise you. And we need to do everything we can to support you guys in what you do, specifically in a way so that you guys can provide for your families. This past legislative session, we had kind of a law enforcement appreciation time down in the Senate. And all the sheriffs came down at the Sheriff's Association, they came, and they wanted one thing. They asked one thing from the Senate. That was, they wanted a pay raise for sheriff's deputies.
Yes.
Darn right.
Yeah.
We didn't do it.
Why?
I'll get that in a minute. We offered them a special license plate. We offered them a commission to look into giving them a pay raise and a couple other things. But we didn't give them a pay raise. There was a bill that I sponsored that would have given them a pay raise, but a lot of the senators felt like it was an unfunded mandate. Because the one bill, that the first bill I introduced, made the counties give them this pay raise, but didn't give them the funding mechanism to do it. So there was a lot of debate. We want to help them. That's an unfunded mandate, and we don't like unfunded mandates, so there's no support for it. So I went back to the drawing board. I said, okay, I believe that public safety, law enforcement officers, it is a state, or should be a state priority. And to your point earlier, sir, if we have the money to build roads, to stadiums, and stadiums and parking lots, then we should be able to find the money as a state to make sure that we're paying these guys livable wage.
Yes.
It's all about
Redistribution of funds, isn't it?
do what?
Redistribution of funds.
Yep. So I went back and I created 2 different bills that would provide state funding for law enforcement officers so that the state would come in and fill that gap so that you guys could have the money to provide for your family. Because I heard stories of how they're out there working 2 and 3 jobs, missing their sons and their daughters' birthdays and soccer games, football games. And there's over 3,200 law enforcement officers in Georgia that are currently on food stamps.
Oh, that's horrible.
That's embarrassing. That's
Yeah,
embarrassing.
but we have number 1 and number 2 football teams.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it is a priority of mine to make sure that we take care of our law enforcement officers because they are taking care of us. And the moment we lose control on our streets, who are we going to be calling?
What happened to your bills?
They never got hurt.
They went to that committee?
They didn't even make it to that committee. They never got hurt. And do y'all know who Dog the Bounty Hunter is?
Yeah.
We teamed up with Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
He did a robocall for us, over 500,000 Georgians. We had him call 500,000 Georgians and let them know that we've got this bill that provides pay raises for law enforcement officers and that we need to hear it in the Senate. Nothing happened.
How many signers did you have on that particular bill?
Me and 2 others.
Who was it?
Josh McCoon
Yeah.
and Ray Kirk. I had one legislator. I couldn't believe I heard this. I was sitting in his office, talking to him, trying to get him to sign off this bill. Comment I get back was, they know what they're getting into when they sign up for it.
Oh, my.
I said, okay, I'm done. I'll move on to the next bill.
They voted themselves a pay raise?
Yeah,
Go to the governor pay raise.
yeah, right.
Did you know that the bus drivers in Union County make $5 more an hour than our policemen?
I know about that. I mean, I know some police officers are making $11, $12 an hour.
And why is it that the legislature votes and requires counties to give teacher pay raises?
That's one of their arguments, is the state mandates pay raises for teachers, why not law enforcement officers? No, it's all, there is not the political willpower right now to actually stand up for our law enforcement officers. That's the bottom line. They'll talk about it all day long, but when the rubber comes through, hits the road, and it's time to actually pay them what they deserve to be paid, there's only a few that stand up for them. As governor, that will be another one of my main priorities. We have got to start supporting our law enforcement.
How do you propose as governor to make these changes?
These, which ones? All of them?
Yeah, I mean, basically, you saw what you came into when you became a state senator, and the good old boy network, was there. How do you, I mean, your ideas are awesome, and they definitely need to be done, but how do you propose?
The
to start?
ideas that are around money, like the movement, the spending of money, the governor of Georgia is one of the top 5 most powerful governors in the entire country. A big part of that is the appointments that the governor makes here in Georgia, as well as the influence and control that he has over the budget. The governor sets the revenue number. He sets the first budget, and he has line item veto on the budget. So,
Is that good?
That's
yeah.
very good.
Yeah, it's
It's good in the hands of the right governor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how to do a lot of this, and then the other part, a lot of things that I want to do, the powers that be down there, the lobbyists, the money, they're not going to like me very much. They're going to go out there and they're going to spread all kind of rumors. They're going to say how ineffective I am. Just look what they're doing to Trump right now.
Right.
That's what they're going to try to do to me.
Right.
I'm hoping on a little bit smaller scale. For me to be effective, I have to have you guys.
Yeah.
Without the people out there saying, we support Governor Williams and what he's trying to do, and calling your state senator and state representative and saying, you know, we have got to do this, get behind our governor, it's going to be really hard for me to do stuff that is not dealing with the budget. But I have got to have a good relationship with the public, communicate with the public, and be accessible to the public. Because the moment I lose the public's trust, I can't get a single thing done.
Do you tweet and Twitter?
I do. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. We send out emails on a regular basis. So there's going to be a lot of things that we do to stay in contact with the people. Because again, once I lose that, I'm dead in water. I'll be a 4-year, one-term governor, and then out because the lives and the money will come in and be. I don't have you guys' support. So that's how we get it done.
We're looking at 2018, right?
Yes, ma'am. May of 2018 is the primary. There'll be a runoff, so it'll be May of 2018, and then July for the runoff, and then November. Oh, and I'm kind of getting off a little bit. I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time. Stacey Abrams. You know who Stacey Abrams is? She used to be the minority leader in the House. She's now running for governor on the Democrat side. She came out and wants to blow up Stone Mountain.
That's
You believe that? Yeah. She wants to blow up Stone Mountain.
What do you expect?
I was on CNN. I know some people, they're like, why are you on CNN? That's the fake news stuff. But I was on CNN Saturday trying to convince and tell people we don't need to blow up Stone Mountain. We need to preserve our history. We remember our history. And we don't need to erase it and rewrite our history, because if we start doing that, who is going to do it?
Who's going to do it?
Who's going to do it?
Be on the
Exactly.
internet.
Exactly.
Let the kids see.
So we need to do everything we can to protect our monuments and our history. And also, I don't really understand why Stacey is doing that, because all the surveys I see, it's a losing argument, even on the Democrat side.
Yes.
Only thing I can think of is it's part of the liberal left to divide us and to conquer us. That's the only reason, because it is not a winning argument unless you want mass chaos.
But there's a reason.
Oh, exactly.
We only
Exactly.
play defense, we don't play offense.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what happened at the end of the Civil War. What happened at Appomattox?
I mean,
Grant gave the Southern guys their guns back and told them to go home.
Yeah.
Does that sound like he was punishing them? He said the war's over. You guys are Americans.
Well,
Go
yeah.
back. Go home. Your farms and your family.
Yep.
Now, why don't I haven't heard anybody talk about those kind of stories? You know, why not?
I don't know.
Because they don't know. I asked a guy that the head of a political group the other day about if he ever heard about the paragraph that Jefferson had to take out of the Declaration of Independence. You know what that paragraph was? It eliminated slavery. So you didn't know that either, did you?
No.
See, where is nobody learning anything? You want to be a politician, but you don't know our history. You gotta know.
I wish I could say I knew everything, but.
And why was it taken out? Because Georgia and South Carolina would not sign it. And there were guys up north that were involved in the slave trade that they didn't want to give up either. And so we had a civil war over it.
But see, he had to learn 30 years more history than some of us did.
Exactly. That's the reason why. But I also, two other things real quick, I'll tell you answers, and I guess we can go. One, I am 100% pro-life, and nobody will ever convince me otherwise. And I mentioned my last child, my little girl, Brinley. She was conceived using in vitro. And I remember when my wife and I went to the doctor and they stuck the embryo inside of her and seeing this little dot cross the screen just go and attach to the inside of my wife. And then we went about 2 weeks later and we saw the heart just kind of beating on there on the screen. I mean, I actually started crying. And I know that life begins at conception. And we have to do everything that we can to protect that life. Because it's under attack and we have to protect that. Also, immigration, all that. One of the things that I feel like we need to do is just follow the laws. You know, I don't want to be hard, I don't want to be cold, I don't want to be mean, but I do want us to be a law-abiding citizens in country. And one of the programs that the federal government actually gives the states through the immigration, through ICE, It's a 287G. What that program does, it allows counties to basically deputize their sheriff's deputies to become ICE agents. Imagine if we had a state full of ICE agents. And we could then handle our own deportation and stuff like that. Can you imagine what we could do? Only 4 counties in the state are 287G counties. No.
How do you get to be one?
There's requirements that the federal government puts out, and you have to meet these requirements and apply for it. And
Who would
then
do that, Commissioner?
it would be the, yeah, it'd be the sheriff. Yeah.
Mac?
Yeah, so, that would be a big priority of mine, is to make sure that we support these sheriffs so they can become 287G, so that we can actually uphold the law here in Georgia. And that's kind of a little bit about, again, I can keep on going, but I want to be respectful of your time, and I'll take any questions.
What happens with this bill that went through the Senate about giving these illegal driver's licenses?
The one that would stop it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that would stop
What I
that.
heard, it passed through the Senate, and on an unrecorded vote, which sort of kind of throws me off.
It passed the Senate or it didn't pass?
Well, I heard it passed.
And then it went over to the House, and then get a hearing in the House.
Maybe Goose can explain that to us.
Well, if it passed the Senate, it's a good thing, right? Yeah, it passed the Senate, we got it out of the Senate, it's sitting in the House, waiting for them to take it up. And I wish I could tell you what goes on in the House, but, yes, ma'am.
As far as law enforcement officers, I'm really livid because the mayors, like in Maryland and over in Charlottesville, gave the police standout orders. Any mayor that does that should be removed from office. It should be against the law and illegal for any mayor, person in authority like that to order law enforcement to stand down when the civilian population is threatened with violence.
No, I don't disagree with that. On top of that, Stacey Abrams, again, she's calling for the removal of the statue. Again, I was on CNN. They had her on the phone. The commentator asked her, do you denounce and condemn those that are basically breaking the law? Because those people that are out there taking down statues,
They're breaking the law.
they're breaking the law.
Yeah.
Do you condemn them? Asked her twice. She would not condemn them. In fact, she made the statement, we have to do everything we have to do. So she is encouraging that kind of stuff, and she wants to be our next governor.
That's what a lot of these mayors and of sanctuary cities and all these other places are doing. They're encouraging the
Yeah.
violence and the dissent that's in this country.
We have got to start prosecuting the people that perpetrate and that break these laws. And until we do that, it's going to continue.
Just follow Texas.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I always say, we have become a culture of death. You can't kill 56 million babies and then be upset when they start shooting cops. Because you're
There's so much hypocrisy that goes on in our country right now, primarily from the left.
Drugs.
Yes.
How do you feel about recurring incidents where abusers are just in jail, sort of like a revolving door? And do you have any input on how to curb that?
Kind of two things. One, the family. There are a lot of societal problems that would be solved if we had stronger family units. And we need to push policies and funding for programs that support the families. Secondly, I'm talking to some of the sheriffs, and Chip, you tell me if it's different here, but close to half of the people that are in county jail in Forsyth County have some type of mental problem. And we need to fund and we need to help the mentally ill to get them the help they need instead of treating them like criminals.
That brings up another question. People that are underage, the parents are not held responsible for their actions anymore. Why and what happened to this?
Why? And I say the laws have changed, the processing, or the prosecuting of it has changed. Is that a good thing? No, I think parents need to be responsible for their kids' actions.
So are you indicating when a person is born, the parent's not responsible for them?
No, the parent is responsible for them.
At what age are they not responsible?
When they turn 18, they're a legal adult.
Okay. When from 18 and younger, a lot of these kids are actually and they're involved in drug activity. Why can't we hold their parents responsible?
Well, what's your definition of responsible? What would you like done?
Financially responsible.
Okay, and what way?
You know, I mentioned this the other day, you know, a lot of these people, single parents or what have you, they have access to money, lives, or their living, or property. You know, why don't we take this property and put it in the investment of a child in a home somewhere?
Conceptually, I am for that. The only thing that I would want us to be leery of is one thing that was going on right now in Georgia is we have one of the highest rates of our citizenry on probation. The reason for that is you get a poor person that can't pay a speeding ticket, they go on probation. Then that speeding ticket might be $170, $220, and ends up being $500, $600 because of all the fines and all that, only because you're poor. And we start adding more financial difficulties on poor people, that will not make it better, but will compound the problem. So if there's a way that we can figure out a system that holds these parents accountable in a way that changes behavior, I'm all for it. But if it's something that puts the parent in a worse situation to begin with, and you actually get the opposite result, we'd have to really look and figure out what the answer is as far as how we're going to hold the parent accountable.
You're going to have to change hearts, not.
Yeah, exactly. You can't force morality. You can't legislate
No,
morality.
that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
They just have to be open to
Change.
change our
Yes, ma'am.
Recently, the Union County School Board voted to begin drug testing middle school children. Middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Students, anyone who is doing any type of outside activity, which the superintendent says will cover 90% of the middle school population. Now, whether or not, I happen to think
So about
that's...
extracurricular activity. For them to participate in extracurricular activity, they have to be drug tested.
Right.
Okay.
Well, the
Poetry
parents have
club.
to sign the child's rights away.
Yeah, poetry club, debate team, whatever. Okay, so that's one issue. I happen to think it's a Fourth Amendment issue, but putting that aside, we don't drug test our teachers.
We don't drug test people that are on welfare.
No.
But yeah, we want to start drug testing our kids.
So here we have schools where the children are all subject to random drug testing, and we don't have drug-free workplaces for those children to attend school.
No. Yeah, I could not support that. Any other questions?
I have a question. In your booklet here, you mentioned the fair tax for
Yes.
Georgia.
Yes.
Could you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, I apologize.
Give us an idea of what the likelihood of that happening might be.
I am very hopeful that we can get to that, primarily again with my background in accounting, finance, being able to actually kind of go in and start shaving off some of our budget. The state of Georgia has gone from $15 billion, just over $15 billion, to $25 million in 7 years. That's a 66% increase in the state of Georgia's budget in the past 7 years. Anybody in here, a household, it's gone up 66% in the past 7 years? I've yet to meet anybody, but yeah, the state of Georgia has. So the issue to me isn't that we don't have enough money, and that number keeps going up and up and up and up. We're just not doing a good job controlling and accounting for that money. So if we can do a better job of that, we're not going to need as much. And then the very first thing I want to do when I elect the governor is freeze the budget. Whatever budget it was the year before, we freeze it. But as all this extra money starts to come in, it builds up our reserve, and there's going to come a point where it triggers an automatic refund. Our reserve can't get to a certain point, so we got to start sending money back. We start sending money back to you guys, the argument of we can't afford it goes away. So we start to lower that state income tax. Because here in Georgia, we have one of the highest in Southeast. We lower that state income tax to the point where we can eventually eliminate it and move it more towards a fair tax of consumption tax. Because again, I want to be a state that doesn't tax producers. I don't want you to come in Georgia and have to pay your producer your tax, but tax the consumption.
I'm a big supporter of the fair tax
Yeah.
concept and have been ever since it came about years and years ago.
Yeah. And again, we've got Florida to our south, Tennessee to our north, Texas to our west, zero state income tax. I believe we can get to the point where we can do that as well, and that to not affect us.
But it's been proven that, at least the studies that I've read, that it would actually revenue neutral.
Well, depending on how you do it, it can be revenue neutral, but again, I would like to actually decrease the taxes collected per capita.
Well, I would too.
Yeah, and then we'll get to as low as we can and transition over to a zero fair tax model.
Good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I just remembered, I heard another gentleman running for the same office, was asked a question about legal use of marijuana, drug, medical
Yeah.
marijuana.
So what's my position on that? About 2 years ago, my son, my oldest son, had an accident. He was skateboarding with his siblings, actually being kind of stupid. They were pulling each other behind the car. He wasn't wearing a helmet. He hit his head, and they didn't think he was going to make it. There was about 5 days, 6 days where we thought he was going to die. And I remember feeling and knowing that I would do anything I could to save my son's life. So when these parents, they start coming with their kids who are going through seizures and all that, I definitely understand their position in wanting to take care of their kids. So I support medical marijuana. I do not support legalizing it and making it recreational. But if there's a way to help these children and for the government to be the reason why they can't help them, I can't support that.
Well, my thought on that is, maybe perspective you haven't looked at before, and I'm sure you may have thought about it. Opioids are legal, but not marijuana.
Yeah.
There's so many differences between the two.
Again, the hypocrisy that exists in our.
Why wouldn't it be, I thought about this, why wouldn't it be handled like any other medical drug is handled?
What I've experienced down there as far as when the bills come up and as far as getting them passed, there's this continual debate and concern about it being a slippery slope. If we legalize medical marijuana, will the next thing be recreational? And trying to find that balance between where, let's get to the point where we can legalize it for those that need it, but have firm ground on not.
That's what I'm saying, why is it different than opioids or any other painkiller?
Is it because of big pharma?
Yeah, I just don't get why it should be.
It's more from the religious right. All right, well, thank you guys so much for coming out. I appreciate y'all coming. And my cell number is on our website. You go to www.williamsgeorgia.com. Oh, you have a question?
I want to make one comment for the group here. It's already been proved that 95% of the arrests are made in the state of Georgia by the city and the county sheriff's deputies and the police officers. Right now, law enforcement in the state of Georgia is being funded by the property owners through their property tax. If you own property in the county or the city and pay that tax, that's where the majority of that money is coming from. 45 years ago, when I hired on the state patrol, they had a total of 900 troopers. Per capita today, the population, we should have 2,300. They've got a total of 780. And you probably divide that by half that are actually out in the field working. So the job needs to be done, and we need good men and women to help do it. You've all heard the cliche, you get what you pay for. If we don't have good quality officers, the first thing we do is get out here and get involved in some lawsuit where someone makes a mistake that they shouldn't make, and if it, in a county this size, break it. So I would urge all of you to be informed about the candidates that are running, and let your conscience be your guide. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you having enough courage to stand up down there and try to get something done for the families. As you said, I believe 3,200 are on food stamps in this state. That's absolutely despicable.
Yes.
2 or 3 of these officers in here, 3 or 4 of them, works for the Blair Police Department and for the Sheriff's Office, trying to work 2 jobs. And it's time somebody stood up, and I appreciate you standing up. Even though it didn't get anywhere, I think the movement looks like it has picked up speed from last year when it was first started.
I am very excited to see what happens this next legislative session.
I commend you. I've heard several of the legislators, the largest comment that I've seen out of most of them is, we didn't know. We didn't know that the state didn't do this. We didn't know that the state didn't do that. It's basically thrown on the shoulders of the cities and the county, period.
Thank you. Again, you can go to www.williamsgeorgia.com to read more about us. You can sign up, get our newsletter, donate if you like to, and I appreciate y'all coming out. Thank you.